Some of you are here to dislike just because Lil Baby's in the thumbnail, right? Let's just all calm down for a second. The video isn't just about him, so maybe if you watch the whole thing, there will be some points in this video that you agree with. Bruh, I'm sweating. Why do I wear hoodies when it's summer? So yeah, as for the actual topic of this video, as the thumbnail and the title says, I feel like there's been a decline in trap music in the past couple of years. And in particular, I'm talking about the decline in the memorability and quality of trap albums in the mainstream. And I'm gonna share with you guys why I feel this way. But before we can start looking at the decline of the trap genre, first we need to briefly look at when it was at its peak and what made it so good then. This is your boy CDTVProductions. And let's just jump right into this conversation.
So don't you open up that window. Same color t-shirt. I got enemies.
Now before we get into this, just keep in mind that this isn't an objective video. That's not what it's supposed to be. It's just completely based on my opinion, and with that in mind, I personally think the peak of mainstream trap albums and music was from the year 2014 up to 2017. During this era, you got some of the most iconic trap albums of all time and some of my personal favorites. Travis Scott's Rodeo, Ray Shrimmer's Shrem Life, Young Thug's Slime Season 3 and Jeffrey, Migos' Culture, 21 Savage, Offset and Metro Boomin's Without Warning. There's so many projects from that era that I still bump to this day frequently. Hell, I even listened to Rodeo while I was scripting this video, and it's crazy to think that that's an album that dropped around 5 years ago, and it still sounds new. So what is it that makes all the aforementioned albums so great? And what is it that makes them so memorable and replayable all these years later? Well, first and foremost, look at the track lists. Every single project I mentioned has 14 tracks or less, with their runtimes generally sitting at around an hour or less. The songs themselves were typically longer, and as you can see by the track list, there was fewer of them. And when it comes to making a memorable album that lasts a lifetime, I think this is such an important factor. There was clearly some actual quality control that went into selecting the track listing for these albums and filtering out the songs that would just serve as filler and bloat the albums too much. And as the songs were generally longer, they did feel more special and purposeful as individual tracks. I can barely name any tracks that I skip when listening to Rodeo, Shrem Life, or Jeffrey because every song that's on there sounds like it should be on there. Even the ones that I do skip, I still feel like they should be on the projects. They fit in. These albums are all pretty dedicated to having a specific atmosphere, and as such, it makes them stand out as well-crafted, refined projects. Of course, another thing that demands this replay value is that all 5 of the projects I mentioned there actually stand out when compared to each other. Some are simpler and some are more complex, but I think they all are very recognizable in their own right. They don't all have the exact same rappers as features across their tracks, they don't all sound like they're following the exact same instrumental trends to make songs that are popular, and the songs all sound varied enough while sticking to a cohesive sound throughout. These things really are simple, but they're the main things that make these projects so repeatable for me. On top of the actual music on them being great, this is just another thing that makes them more replayable. Rodeo is the strongest example of all of these, and it's one of my favorite rap albums of all time, as you can probably tell because it's the one I've mentioned the most in this segment. It still holds up to this day, and I don't see myself ever getting bored of it. This was such an amazing era for trap music because these albums really have longevity and they utilize the sound to its fullest capabilities. But unfortunately, things don't stay great forever, and the trap genre is exemplary of that. So, let's shift the conversation over from the peak of trap music to the decline.
Lately I've been in my bag. Pop a pill, automatic ET. All fat though, clear with the pinky. These stones got clarity, they twinkle and they twinkle.
The whole argument as to why trap music is starting to become very stale and uninteresting to me now boils down to one single word: oversaturation. This is something that genuinely took me until I listened to High Off Life by Future just a few weeks ago to fully realize how much this oversaturation was affecting my enjoyment of trap music in general. I do want to point out real quick that I don't think all the albums on here are bad. This is just a background to represent 2019 and 2020 in trap music. Please excuse me for being antisocial is a great rap album. But yeah, I mean all the other ones, not so much. I mean, I had felt my enjoyment of certain albums within this subgenre dropping quite a bit recently, but for some reason it did just take me until I listened to High Off Life for it to fully click. Because I was listening to it and I didn't necessarily find much of it to be bad or annoying. But the main thought that was going through my head as I was listening to those 21 songs was just, do I really care about what I'm listening to right now? And the honest answer is no. And with this album, the problem isn't that I hate Future's music in general, because I've actually been getting into his music a little bit more recently. The issue, I feel, is with mainstream rap albums getting repetitive, stale, and forgettable. I know some of this stuff sounds like the old head stance on all mainstream hip-hop, but this is something that's only settled in for me really recently. It's just, this issue seems more prevalent than ever right now. The exact same feeling I got with High Off Life hit me when listening to My Turn by Lil Baby. There we go, that's why he's in the thumbnail. Nav's Good Intentions, and Rich the Kid's Boss Man. These are all projects that do vary in quality and enjoyability, but I found all of them pretty boring and exemplary of the issues plaguing trap albums in 2020. No one seemingly cares about making a well-crafted, innovative trap album anymore. It seems like it's all about the streams and getting rich off of big songs. Now don't get me wrong, I understand wanting to make a lot of money off of music, but I feel like the drive to make as much money as possible is what's really killing off the artistry in big name trap albums the past couple of years. Whether it's the fault of the artists themselves or the record labels pushing things to be this way, it's still something that's happening. Take a look at these track lists. All around 20 plus songs. Oversaturation. Every single album that I just mentioned would be much better if you cut like 5 to 8 songs off of them, and sure, some of them would still be ass, but at least it would be slightly more bearable ass, and I could appreciate the quality control. The way they are, they just feel like compilations of singles thrown together. It's like the artist's going, hey, here's a big chunk of singles, take the ones that you like from it and forget about the rest of the album, because it's not like the songs are really linked by a strong theme or a cool, innovative sound anyway. Sometimes it feels like a chore sifting through filler to find the quality songs that I'll throw onto my playlists while never revisiting the full album again after my first few listens. It's not exactly the length that's the issue, it's the fact that these albums almost feel artificially inflated to get to the length that they are. Not to mention, there's also the new trend of dropping a deluxe version of your album that's essentially its own album. Lil Uzi had a 14-track deluxe album, then Nav did it, and G Herbo does too. Is this really necessary? You may have also noticed the incredibly repetitive features throughout these albums, another area of oversaturation. It's now the least surprising and exciting thing ever to see Lil Baby, NBA Youngboy, one of the Migos, Lil Uzi Vert, Young Thug, or Travis Scott as a feature on these big name trap albums when they're announced. And I like some of those artists, but it's incredibly stale to see them slapped on every track list just because songs with them generally get more streams. Oh, did I forget to mention Gunna? You also see him featured just sometimes though. Again, it supports the idea that mainstream trap is too commercialized for its own good nowadays. There's an incredibly minuscule amount of albums that I can point to from 2019 or 2020 that will have even close to a rodeo level impact on me personally. I'm really wondering which trap albums from these past 2 years I could genuinely see myself listening to 4 or 5 years down the line. It's probably not many of them. It's not even really to do with the artists being awful in most of these cases. It's just the subgenre's insistence on running everything into the ground rapidly. What we're getting now are a lot of rappers that can sound great for a single featured verse, but are draining and tedious to listen to for a whole album. Sure, you could say that this supposed decline of trap music is because the subgenre is less fresh and exciting now, purely because it's been around for a long time. And that's definitely part of it, but I think a bigger part is the shift in how these albums are made to essentially be carbon copies of each other, at least in terms of the formula, rather than taking risks and trying to innovate. Maybe this is just a phase that will pass soon, but I do feel like this repetitiveness and oversaturation is causing a rapid decline in trap music. Well guys, that is going to be it for the video today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys all enjoyed the video. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about this decline of trap music discussion. If you agree with the points I made, if you disagree, or if you just, agree with some of them. Whatever the case is, I'd be interested to see what you guys think. Because as I said throughout the video, this is purely just my opinion on this discussion. Also, do you see these big moves? 3 uploads in 1 month. Who is this and what has he done with CDTV? So thank you so much for watching, guys. I will see you all in the next video. And this is CDTV Productions, signing out.